The head of the Palestinian refugee agency UNRWA said he is outraged at Israel's decision to no longer approve UNRWA aid convoys into Gaza.
Ukraine has endured another night of intense air bombing, with attacks reported in Kyiv and several other cities.
Demonstrators have gathered in Belgrade to mark the 25th anniversary of the start of NATO's bombing campaign. Thousands of people have demonstrated against Austria's far-right FPÖ party ahead of EU and parliamentary elections.
A Euronews Commission poll has revealed EU voters' top concerns ahead of European elections.
The head of the Palestinian refugee agency UNRWA has said he is outraged at Israel's decision to no longer approve UNRWA aid convoys into northern Gaza. Felipe Lazzarini said the decision intentionally obstructs life-saving assistance during a man-made famine. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres expressed his full support for UNRWA and its chief.
We will look seriously into the recommendations that will be presented, and we want to strengthen UNRWA in its capacity to deliver to the Palestinian people and in its capacity to be fully in line with UN values, as it is the firm determination of the leadership of UNRWA that is represented here by Philippe Lazzarini.
French President Emmanuel Macron warned Israel any forced relocation of people from the city of Rafah would be a war crime. Meanwhile, Israeli media reported authorities are ready to exchange about 800 Palestinian prisoners for 40 hostages. Hamas leadership have 3 days to reply to the offer. Religious celebrations have taken place, with thousands of Christians attending Palm Sunday at Jerusalem's Mount of Olives. While in the West Bank, Jews celebrate Purim, a holiday to remember the biblical story of how a plot to exterminate Jews in Persia was thwarted.
Ukraine has endured another night of intense air bombing, with attacks reported in Kyiv and several other cities. Russia has stepped up airstrikes recently, targeting the Ukrainian capital for the third time in 5 days on Monday. Officials said a residential building in the city center was extensively damaged. At least 5 people were reportedly injured.
Черговий прояв тероризму зараз Печерський район міста Києва. Ми бачимо учбовий заклад, який знаходився за мною, зруйнованим вибухом. Одночасно пролунала повітряна тривога і відбулися вибухи. Це означає, що була задіяна балістична зброя.
At least 11 were injured in strikes in the southern city of Mykolaiv. Ukrainian defense officials say the air assault was launched from the Black Sea and that much of it targeted civilian infrastructure, including power stations. Some 20,000 people in Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city, were left without electricity.
Demonstrators have gathered in Belgrade to mark the 25th anniversary of the start of NATO's aerial bombing campaign against the country in 1999. Crowds gathered outside a former army headquarters damaged by the bombardment, which stopped Serbia's crackdown against ethnic Albanian separatists. The intervention ended Belgrade's rule over its former province of Kosovo. Hundreds of names of military and civilian victims appeared on large video walls in various cities in Serbia. In Belgrade, officials laid wreaths to commemorate civilians, military and police killed during the strikes. In official reports, an estimated amount of 500 civilians were killed during NATO's air campaign. Thousands of people regularly demonstrate against the FPÖ in Austria. The far-right party has led the polls for over a year, and now European elections and parliamentary elections are approaching.
Das ist die Partei, die am meisten hetzt, die unsere Demokratie aushöhlt. Wir sind ja die Omas gegen rechts.
müssen einfach zusammen an einer Lösung arbeiten und nicht sagen, Remigration und Ausländer raus.
Von vielen geächtet, von genauso vielen gewählt. Die FPÖ kritisiert die gestiegenen Lebenserhaltungskosten und die zuletzt eskalierende Gewalt auf den Straßen Wiens und bietet eine Proteststimme gegen die Regierung.
With an economy in the doldrums, the EU-skeptic Freedom Party is swamped with voters. This has led to warnings that Europe must prepare itself for an isolated Austria.
Also die FPÖ ist viel weniger enthusiastisch, was den Ukraine-Krieg angeht und auch viel positiver über Orban zu sprechen. Das heißt, es wäre auch eine Umorientierung von Österreich im internationalen Bereich, wobei auch da sehr stark es davon abhängt, was die Partnerparteien der FPÖ zulassen.
According to the polls, the FPÖ will win both the European elections in June and the parliamentary elections in autumn. Austria's future chancellor will probably not be an easy partner for Brussels. Russia has charged 4 men it says attacked a Moscow concert hall, killing at least 130 people. The men who showed signs of severe beatings all pleaded guilty at the court hearing in the Russian capital. They were charged with terrorism, which carries a life jail term. Russia observed a national day of mourning 2 days after the grisly attack on the Crocus City Hall. Events by cultural institutions were cancelled on Sunday. Flags were lowered to half-mast, whilst television entertainment and advertising were suspended. Search operations and clearing debris continue. As for the building, it is left with a collapsed roof and smouldering from the attack. As well as the deceased, more than 180 people were reportedly injured.
Dozens gathered in Barcelona in favor of keeping nuclear energy running against the planned closure of Spain's nuclear power plants. The organizers call themselves the first pro-nuclear group. They argue that nuclear energy is efficient and produces relatively minimal amounts of carbon dioxide. In December 2023, Spanish authorities officially planned to shut down all 7 remaining nuclear reactors in the country. Currently, 5 nuclear plants in Spain cover roughly 20% of the country's power demand.
A video has emerged showing French police using aggressive tactics to prevent migrants crossing the channel to the UK from France. Patrol boats are seen circling and speeding alongside the dinghies in what experts say are dangerous maneuvers. The footage has been released as part of a lengthy joint investigation by 3 British, German and French newspapers. French authorities say the officers' actions were aimed at preventing the migrants from reaching the open sea. They say the group was rescued and the smugglers arrested.
Economic instability, high prices, shrinking social protection. Demand for a more social-orientated Europe is rising across the EU, according to an exclusive Euronews Commission poll. It is the first survey of its kind to be carried out in 18 European countries. Polling by Ipsos and Euronews found the Portuguese are the most concerned by the rising cost of living. On average, 68% of Europeans want the EU to tackle price increases. Only 7% of the electorate say inflation is not a priority at all. Finns are the least worried about the cost of living. In a time of crisis, EU citizens say they feel impoverished. 64% of people want the EU to defend their social rights and reduce social inequalities. Only 8% would be against this. The Portuguese are on top again. The Poles, meanwhile, are less concerned. The third priority of voters is economic growth. 62% of respondents want EU legislators to implement measures to boost economic growth. Unemployment came in 4th, just behind the fight against illegal immigration. The Dutch are the least inclined towards EU intervention to boost the economy. Social issues are not only priorities for left and centre-left orientated voters. Moderates, conservatives, centrist liberals and right-wing voters are also demanding more social and economic intervention by Brussels compared to previous elections. A robust majority of the conservative ECR group and far-right ID group asked for measures against inflation. Still, when it comes to inequalities and social protection, the left is more demanding. The majority of the Grand Coalition voters are asking for more EU legislators' assertiveness when it comes to taking measures sparking economic growth. Social and economic issues are transpolitical concerns, spanning left and right. The polls suggest that EU leaders could need to boost public spending, devise policies that reduce economic gaps and better protect rights to meet people's demands.
Italy's Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini has held a meeting of populist allies in Rome ahead of the European elections in June. Salvini's The League Party and representatives from other far-right parties are allied under the umbrella of the Identity and Democracy Group. The leader of Portugal's populist Chega party, who recently achieved success in elections, was there. France's Marine Le Pen, a key ally of Matteo Salvini, attended the event via video. A Russian Soyuz spacecraft successfully took off from a launch pad in Kazakhstan on its second attempt. The aircraft carries 3 new crew members set to join the International Space Station. Among them is the first Belarusian woman ever in orbit. The launch was previously scheduled on March the 21st, but was aborted seconds before start. The space station is one of the last remaining areas of collaboration between Russia and the West, amid tensions over Moscow's military action in Ukraine.